Picture the world's biggest container ship nations. Germany in the top three? Makes sense. Export powerhouse, famous ports. China near the top? Of course. But number one by fleet ownership, Switzerland. Yes, Switzerland, a landlocked country whose official home port for seagoing ships is Basel. Now picture a 400-meter mega carrier, 60 meters wide, drawing more than 15 meters of water, sailing up a 100-meter wide, sub-10-meter deep stretch of the Rhine. Not happening. And yet, on paper, Switzerland sits at the top. Here's the twist that wins the comment section every time. When rankings say Swiss container fleet, they're counting who owns or controls the ships, not which flag they fly or which port they visit. Ownership, flag, and crew are three different levers. Once you see that, every confusing headline snaps into focus. By the end of this, you'll decode any ship in 10 seconds flat, who really controls it, why the flag often isn't home, and how a quiet office in Geneva ended up running the largest container fleet on Earth. Start with a ship you might see in a headline, a 24,000-plus TEU MSC Giant, nearly 400 meters long, 61-ish meters wide, stacked with colored boxes like a floating skyline. It belongs to the biggest container line on the planet, Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC, headquartered not in Shanghai or Singapore, but in Geneva, a short drive from Lake Geneva. No ocean in sight, and yet from that address, hundreds of ships and a global workforce are coordinated every day. That's how Switzerland tops ownership tables, because MSC calls Switzerland home. Lock in this model. A ship has three people, like a car has an owner, a license plate, and a driver. The owner is the name on the title, the company that controls the asset and earns the revenue. The flag state is the license plate, the country on the stern that sets tax, safety, and labor rules. And the crew is the driver, the professionals who actually run the vessel, often from the Philippines, India, Indonesia, and Eastern Europe. Those three rarely match by design. Take a single hull. It can be Swiss-owned, flagged in Liberia, technically managed by a Greek or Singaporean operator, crewed by Filipinos and Indians, built in South Korea, financed by a syndicate in London and Tokyo, and carrying Chinese exports to Europe. It sounds messy. It's optimized. Quick quiz you'll now ace. If a ship is Swiss-owned but flies a Liberian flag, is it really Swiss? In ownership rankings, yes. In flag rankings, no. That's why you almost never see a Swiss flag on a mega carrier, even though Switzerland leads by ownership. Before we zoom in on MSC, here's why Switzerland even has a sea flag. In 1941, with World War II choking trade, the Swiss government created a small merchant fleet and a rectangular Swiss civil ensign for ships. Legal home port, Basel. The goal was simple: secure critical imports under a neutral flag when borders and navies were unpredictable. Neutrality didn't make ships invulnerable. Two were lost despite the flag, but the fleet served its purpose. After the war, Switzerland kept a tiny register as a strategic reserve. It peaked at a few dozen ships and has since shrunk. That's the Swiss-flagged fleet, small by design. So how does Switzerland still end up number one? One company, MSC. Today, MSC runs a fleet measured in the hundreds, with combined capacity in the ballpark of 5.5 to 6 million TEU, more than any other line. Because MSC is headquartered in Geneva, league tables count that capacity as Swiss-owned, even though the flags on the sterns are mostly Liberian, Panamanian, Maltese, or Marshallese. How did MSC get here? A founder with a captain's instincts and a contrarian playbook. In 1970, Italian captain Gianluigi Aponte bought a small cargo ship and began running routes other carriers ignored: Africa, South America, the Middle East. He bought used tonnage at a discount, refurbished it quickly and redeployed it quickly, and built a network where others saw thin margins. While competitors queued for expensive new builds and focused on prestige lanes between North America, Europe, and East Asia, MSC stitched together growth markets and secondary ports. Later, when it did order new ships, it aimed ruthlessly at lower slot cost and network fit. In 2022, MSC overtook Maersk and took the #1 spot. It did all of this as a private, family-owned group, no stock listing, minimal disclosure, fast decisions. Why Switzerland? Why not Naples, where the family started, or Singapore, the world's shipping crossroads? 4 reasons matter more than sea views. First, holding structures and tax. Switzerland is built for multinational groups. It's not a flag of convenience, but it's an efficient jurisdiction for global headquarters and asset holding companies. Second, reputation. A Swiss address signals stability and credibility. Banks, insurers, and big customers respond to that. In shipping, trust speeds decisions. Third, discretion. Privacy is a feature for family businesses, and MSC likes to keep a low profile. Fourth, neutrality and political stability. In a world split by sanctions and shifting alliances, a neutral passport opens doors. Add one more advantage. Geneva and Zug are commodity hubs. Traders, insurers, brokers, and big shippers share sidewalks. When the people who buy, sell, finance, and move goods are a taxi ride away, deals move faster. Let's bust a few myths cleanly. The flag does not tell you who owns the ship. It tells you the regulatory home. The owner tells you who calls the shots. Basel is the home port, so Swiss megaships sail home is a misunderstanding. Basel is a legal home port on the registry, not a navigable destination for 400-meter ships. And flags of convenience aren't cheating. They're legal and mainstream. They offer predictable registration, competitive fees, and standardized rules that global operators rely on. There are legitimate debates about labor, safety, and the environment, but the practice is standard across nations, not a Swiss quirk. So why don't Swiss-owned ships fly the Swiss flag? 2 reasons. The Swiss register is small, more stringent, and not designed as an open registry. It was born for national resilience, not scale. And global operators prefer large, open registries with deep admin teams, strong port state control records, and fee structures built for fleets. For a mega operator, standardizing on registries like Liberia, Panama, Malta, or the Marshall Islands is simply smoother. Anchor this with a forever fact. Container capacity is measured in TEU, 20-foot equivalent units. The biggest ships carry more than 24,000 TEU. One sailing can move the equivalent of hundreds of freight trains. That's why the scale of a single company matters. When you hear Switzerland is #1, you're really hearing MSC controls the most container capacity than anyone.
You now have the mental model insiders use. You can explain in one clean sentence why Switzerland tops the ownership charts without a coastline, while you almost never see a Swiss flag on a mega carrier, and how a quiet HQ in Geneva runs the largest container fleet on Earth. That's knowledge you can use every time shipping shows up in the news. If this gave you a clear edge, if you can now decode any ship in seconds, share it with the person who loves port cams and vessel trackers. And if you want more sharp visual breakdowns of shipping, trade, and logistics, subscribe and stick around. We've got a lot more oceans to cross together.